G'day, it's Dan Beeston here for Tuts Plus. If someone hijacks your Facebook account, there's only so much damage they can do, and you can get that back under your name pretty quickly, but some things are too valuable to risk. Your email, your bank details, your password management master password. You need to make sure those are very strong. To find a good strong password, you need to understand why the IT guys are so stroppy about adding extra numbers and extra characters to your password. With that in mind, let's head to Vegas! Here we are at the Tuts Plus jackpot machine. It's a traditional video poker game, a one-armed bandit. It consists of 3 tumblers. Each tumbler has 3 items of fruit on it. It has a cherry, a lemon, and a watermelon. What this means is that there can be a number of different combinations. It could be cherry, 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 lemon, cherry, lemon, watermelon, as we see here. In fact, there are 3 times 3 times 3 combinations, or 27 different combinations of fruit. Now, if we were to change that, if we were to add bananas to the mix, so that each of the 3 tumblers had 4 pieces of fruit, then there would be 4 pieces of fruit times by 4 times by 4, which is 64. We can describe that as 4 to the power of 3, 64. Alternatively, we could simply keep the 3 pieces of fruit and add an extra tumbler. That way, there would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That's 81. That's even more. That would be described as 3 to the power of 4. Alright, that's the basics. Now we want a password. Here we've got a short password. All lowercase, 6 tumblers. What this means is we've got 26 letters and we've got 6 times. Well, that's a pretty decent sized number, 308 million combinations there. But at the same time, computers can do about that many calculations every half a second. In fact, if we go and check the website, how secure is my password, and type in Hunter, the password will be cracked instantly. In fact, Hunter is in the top 30 most used passwords ever. So if you're at a business, the IT guys are probably going to insist that you have at least 1 capital, 1 number, and 1 special character. Why do they do this? Well, because if each tumbler is only 26 letters, the 26 letters of the alphabet, that also means you want to add each letter as its own capital, so that's another 26 letters. There are 10 digits, and on any given keyboard, there are 32 special characters. Stuff like hash, $, full stop. What this means is there are actually 94 on each tumbler, and 94 to the power of 6 is a number 1,000 times bigger. The only problem is when most people are told to have a capital letter and a number and a special character, what they're probably going to do is they're going to capitalize that first word, they're going to put a number, and let's face it, they're going to put an exclamation point, because exclamation points are awesome. Unfortunately, what this means is that the hacker can assume that that first letter will be one of 26 capital letters, and then a lowercase, a lowercase, a lowercase, a lowercase, a lowercase, one of 10 digits, and an exclamation mark. And that's still only 3 billion combinations, which would take a fraction of a second to crack. So to make your password a little bit more effective, and has the security of 94 times 94 times 94, etc., you could put Hunter with a capital T, replace the E with a 3, and put a tilde. That would be more secure. Not much more secure, but a little bit more secure. In fact, to find out just how much more secure it would be, let's type it in to how secure is my password. And it would take a desktop PC about an hour to crack. So let's add a couple of characters to this. How many do we want? With 10 characters, it would take a desktop PC 96 years to crack the password. And with 11, it would take 7,000 years on a desktop PC. That seems like more than enough security for a password. Except that's a desktop PC. In 2002, the fastest computer known to man ran at 35.86 teraflops. 10 years later, the fastest computer runs at 17,590 teraflops. That's 500 times faster in 10 years. We need to be thinking about passwords with future protection in mind. Now, ultimately, you should be updating your password, but if you're just updating the password in the same way, those computers are going to be getting faster while your password is staying the same. So even with our 11 digits, it's not really that secure. Just like the XKCD comic says, that password is really not that strong after all. In fact, I'm not going to be really happy until I put in a 12th character, and it's going to take 631,000 years to crack it. The problem is that that's hard to memorize now. As the comic points out, you could go with a key phrase, something that's easy for humans to remember. So let's go take a look at that. Here we go, nice long key phrase. Each tumbler has only lowercase letters on it, 26 lowercase letters to the power of 25. Well, that's a nice big number. It's going to take a hell of a long time for someone to brute force attack that password. But, as is also pointed out in that comic, that stands up great to a brute force attack, but if a dictionary attack comes along, well, then it starts to fall apart a bit, because then you've only got 4 tumblers. Now, of course, each tumbler has every single word in the English language on it, but exactly how many is that? Well, the Oxford English Dictionary has 171,476 words in it, to the power of 4, and that's a much smaller number than we had before, but it's still pretty big. That's going to take a number of hundreds of thousands of years to crack. And that includes words like hyacinthine, deicide, politesse, or embombera. These are not common words. In fact, you might be surprised just how few common words there are. Most people have a vocabulary of less than 10,000 words. So if you're using common words, each tumbler really only has 10,000 words. But let's not forget individual letters by themselves, also with uppercase, plus digits, plus special characters. Still a pretty meager number. I want more zeros on the end of that guy to keep me safe. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add a mutator. Now, often what people do is they'll replace an E with a 3 or an O with a 0. But just as that makes it easy for you to remember the password, it also makes it easy for the crackers to predict what you're going to do. In fact, imagine if your dictionary attack had 10,000 words. If you just wanted to mutate the first vowel in every word, that would just double the number of words. And of course, if you wanted to capitalize each word, that would be another set of 1,000. And if you wanted to capitalize and the first mutator, that would be another set of 10,000. We're incrementing our security, but not by a huge amount. What we really want to do is do a mutation that they're not going to expect, a really random one. Here you can see that in horse, I've changed the O to a plus sign. There's no pattern. It's not easy for me to remember, except that I just have to learn to remember it. What it means is that there are now 8 tumblers going, which means 10,094 to the power of 8. That is a number of combinations that I like to see. Or you could also just use 4 normal words, stick a number between each word. Now, one thing to look out for is when you're mutating, just be mindful that the remaining letters don't form their own word. As we can see here, I put a question mark in the middle of battery. ERY will only count as letters in the word, but BAT is going to be in there as well, which means that we're still back to 8 tumblers, which is still good enough, but just be mindful of that one. Now this, of course, only counts for common words. If you add an uncommon word, you're going to make it super hard as well. And everyone knows words that are rare. It might be a brand name or a chemical or a programming term that is probably not going to turn up in a common word list. Knowing what changes work and what ones don't will give you the ability to create a password that's easy to remember and almost impossible to break. It's always a tug of war between us and the bad guys. If you spot a weakness in my system, please do mention it in the comments, and hopefully we'll all get through this together. This has been Dan Beeston for Tuts Plus.